Hello, and thank you for joining us today in our studies of First Kings. Today we're in First Kings chapter 4. And here in this chapter, we read about the basic principles of the kingdom of Solomon, or the basic layout of the kingdom of Solomon, actually. You're going to read about his advisors here in chapter 4. You're going to read about the area of the kingdom of Israel at this time. You're going to read about what it is that Solomon has at his disposal and the governors and all of these various things. So while it seems to be very much just a listing of interesting facts and features, and in some ways it is, what are some things that we can pull out of this particular chapter? Let's look at three different areas that I believe give us some information that is valuable both to understanding Solomon, but also to give us some things to be able to utilize and pulling from it in our own lives in various areas. First of all, at the very beginning of the chapter, you have Solomon putting together, for lack of a better term, his cabinet. These are going to be his advisors. These are going to be the ones that he is going to be the closest to, that he is going to lean on. But they are also going to be the ones who are going to be responsible for offering sacrifices and for the service of God for the people of Israel. If you noticed in that listing, there are a lot of names with which we are already very familiar. If you've been reading with us or following along with us since we were in 2 Samuel, many of these names, especially in the latter portions of 2 Samuel, are ones that you read about a fair amount. You have Azariah, the son of Zadok. You have Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada. You have Zadok and Abiathar, the priests. You have the sons of Nathan that are going to be discussed here. All of these are ones that came from the time of David. And so one of the things that I want you to notice in this chapter is that Solomon does not throw out everybody that was associated with his father. He doesn't say, this is my kingdom, my regime, I'm going to do things the way I want to do them. And even though he is the one in charge, there are many people that he has come to trust and to respect who served in the court of his father. There is something to be said for having trusted advisors and having those that you can trust, having those that have proven themselves over the course of time to be loyal, to be honorable, to be devoted, and utilizing them in the way that they can be of the most help and assistance. Some people want to come in and they just want to automatically bring in their friends and bring in the ones that they are associated with, or that they just want to go through and make their own selections and not have to worry about what anybody else has said or done in the past. And while sometimes there is the necessity for cleaning house, as it were, given circumstances, that's not always the case. Here, Solomon is going to show his wisdom in the fact that he is going to have this cabinet of individuals that have already shown they are trustworthy and have already shown they are loyal and honorable. And you also have the 12 governors. Now, each of these governors is going to be over different sections of the nation, and each of them is going to be responsible for bringing in supplies to the capital 1 month out of the year. It's going to be a form of taxation, but instead of being such where they're responsible for everything, it's broken down into different quantities and quadrants. And so you're going to have them being listed as well. In the second place, here in chapter 4, you also have the borders of Israel being discussed. And where this is going to become interesting is in the fact that this is a country in Israel, a nation in Israel, that has its borders at its greatest expansion of any time in its kingdom. You're going to see the dominion, verse 24, that Israel has from the river from Tifsa even to Gaza, namely over all the kings on this side of the river, and he had peace on every side all around him. Solomon's kingdom is going to stretch, from all indications, from the Euphrates River all the way down to the border of Egypt. It is going to encompass areas of Syria and of the nations round about it. And this is going to be in large part because of the actions of David over the course of his 40 years as king. Solomon here it's going to be stated he was a king of peace. But that was only because David was a king that made it possible to have peace by the wars that he fought, by the victories that he won, and by the things that David did to establish the kingdom of Israel. And so you're going to have peace in the days of Solomon. But that peace is going to have been bought by the battles that were fought in the days of David. You recognize in the days of David that David is told he cannot build the temple because he is a man of blood, because he is a man of battle. But his son Solomon will, because Solomon will be able to thrive in a kingdom that is built most basically upon peace. It doesn't mean that there's never going to be any conflict in the 40 years of Solomon, though there is going to be very little conflict in the days of Solomon. As a matter of fact, Solomon, as we see at the end of the chapter, is going to be one who is going to be sought after by the kings around the world because of his wisdom and because of his justice and because of the things that Solomon is going to bring to the table that are different from most any other king of his day. So the borders of Israel are going to be expansive. They're actually going to be at the greatest level that they will be at any point in the kingdom of Israel's history. But then you come to the third place. And at the end of chapter 4, you see a discussion of Solomon's writings. And it's very interesting because we have many of Solomon's writings. We have the book of Proverbs. It's stated in verse 32 that he spoke 3,000 proverbs and his songs were 1,005. We have many of the Proverbs of Solomon. We have some of the songs of Solomon. We have many of the things that Solomon wrote. But it's interesting that Solomon didn't just write the inspired articles. You know, we have Ecclesiastes, we have the Song of Solomon, we have Proverbs. All of these come from Solomon's hand. But have you ever noticed the things of verses 33 and following, where it says, also he spoke of trees, from the cedar of Lebanon even to the hyssop that springs out of the wall. He also spoke of animals, of birds, of creeping things, and of fish. Solomon was one who was in many ways a naturalist. He was one who paid attention to nature. He cataloged and he wrote about and he discussed things of the various trees that were in his kingdom and of all of the different kinds of animals, and he cataloged all of these things and he talked about and he wrote about these things. He was fascinated with them. One of the things that I think is so interesting when you come to the descriptions of Solomon is we like to put Solomon into, in some ways, this one-dimensional box, that he was this wise man and that he was the wise king. And yet Solomon had a number of different interests. Solomon had interests in a number of different directions. Solomon was, in many ways, he was the scholar king as much as he was the wise king, because Solomon sought after knowledge, and Solomon sought to understand not just the things pertaining to man's relationship to God, but the world around him as well, how it worked, what it looked like, what made it tick. As a matter of fact, that's much of what the book of Ecclesiastes is about. What is the purpose of life as seen in this world around us, and what we can learn from that? So there is a lot of depth and complexity to Solomon, just as there is to each and every one of us. With most people, you can't put them into a single box. There are many different avenues and many different areas of discussion or of observation with any individual. And it's equally the case with Solomon. These are some of the things that I found while examining 1 Kings chapter 4. I hope that they are beneficial to you. I hope that they help to perk some insight into the chapter and also into Solomon and in his kingdom. Next time we'll come back and we'll begin looking at 1 Kings chapter 5. But until then, have a great day.